Prologue. Kitai and her father Daroga journey through the Marat lands, encountering a dead valley that once thrived with the croach, a gelatinous substance. Kitai reports finding dead keepers and croach that breaks into ash, with strange tracks leading west. Her father urges caution, but Kitai is determined to investigate further. Meanwhile, in the First Lord's palace, Miles visits Gaius Sextus, who is weary from the pressure of his responsibilities. Gaius shares his concerns about growing threats to the realm, including a series of massive storms created by the Academ and increasing tension along the shield wall with the Icemen. Gaius also reveals his frustration over the lack of an heir and political pressures, particularly from Aquitaine and other high lords. Miles advises Gaius to take rest and address the issue of succession. Gaius agrees, then orders additional security for the citadel, fearing an attack during the upcoming Wintersend festival. In Chapter 1, Tavi and his friend Aleran prepare for breakfast at the Academy, but face trouble from Brentsus and his cronies, who bully them because of their lower status. Tavi tries to ignore them, but Aleran stands up to Brentsus, leading to a confrontation. Brentsus uses his firecrafting abilities to threaten them, freezing Tavi in the fountain. Just as things escalate, Max arrives and intervenes, knocking Brentsus and his lackeys aside. Max, who had been out all night, helps Tavi out of the frozen water. After some playful banter, the group heads to breakfast, only to be interrupted by Gael, who informs them that their combat final is about to begin. Despite the interruptions and the physical discomfort, Tavi resolves to face whatever comes, even if it means skipping his hard-earned breakfast. In Chapter 2, Tavi and his friends arrive at the hidden study of Maestro Killian for their remedial furycrafting exam. Tavi struggles with his performance, failing to meet Killian's expectations, especially in hand-to-hand combat and staff training. Despite his lack of furycrafting abilities, Killian emphasizes that Tavi's true strength lies in his discipline and ability to hone multiple skills. Killian pushes Tavi to take pride in his unique skills, even though Tavi feels inadequate compared to his furycrafting peers. After the test, Killian assigns Tavi a new challenge, to investigate a series of thefts that the city's civic legion has been unable to solve, suspecting the thief is bypassing fury-based security without using his own magic. Tavi is tasked with uncovering how the thief operates and apprehending him discreetly before the Wintersend festival. Despite his heavy workload, Tavi reluctantly accepts the mission, determined to prove himself. In Chapter 3, Amara arrives at Garrison, having flown in with her Wind Fury Cirrus. She meets Bernard the Count, and they briefly discuss the political situation in Alera, including unrest in the capital. Amara delivers dispatches, including invitation for Bernard and the steadholders to attend the upcoming festival. Their conversation turns to personal matters, with Bernard teasing Amara about her practical flying attire, leading to a flirtatious exchange between them. However, their light-hearted moment is interrupted when Giraldi, a centurion, arrives with urgent news. A Marat war party is approaching. Bernard immediately shifts to action, preparing for potential conflict by organizing an honor guard and suggesting a weapons inspection. Tensions rise as Bernard equips Amara with a gladius and prepares for the possibility of a confrontation, signaling trouble ahead for the garrison. In Chapter 4, Bernard and Amara discuss the approaching Marat war party. Bernard prepares for potential conflict, but Amara questions the size of the force. Bernard speculates that Daroga might not be leading the party, suggesting it could be someone else. The pair meets Daroga and his wounded party, including horses and gargants, who arrive at Garrison. Daroga explains that the Marat's wisdom warns of an ancient, shape-shifting creature called the Vord, which has spread devastation in the past. Daroga recounts battling a Vord nest with 2,000 warriors, but believes a group of Vord is hiding in the valley. He presents Bernard with a backpack containing an unsettling clue, the presence of Tavi, Bernard's nephew. This revelation signals immediate danger, as Bernard realizes that the Vord might be targeting his family. In Chapter 5, Isana narrowly escapes death when a crossbeam in the stables collapses due to a deliberate fury-crafting attack. Realizing someone tried to kill her, she stays vigilant, fearing the attacker's presence in the empty barn. She arms herself with a pitchfork, using her fury rill to sense any hidden presence. When a young man, an assassin, ambushes her, she instinctively strikes back, wounding him fatally. As he dies, Isana feels his emotions intensely through her fury-crafting link, experiencing his pain and fear, which overwhelms her. After the attacker's death, she is left shaken and disoriented, feeling guilty for killing a man so young. She reflects on the reality of someone wanting her dead and the terrifying knowledge that her life is in danger from unseen enemies. As the stables fill with others, Isana succumbs to exhaustion and emotional turmoil, knowing her survival was a result of deadly necessity. In Chapter 6, Isana wakes up to find her brother, Bernard, and others concerned for her after the earlier attack. Despite her physical and emotional exhaustion, Isana is determined to help resolve the escalating crisis. Arik, a young steadholder, shares troubling news about mysterious disappearances of cattle from his steadholt, hinting at something sinister. He describes an eerie, abandoned camp and the disappearance of a man named Grimard. Bernard and Amara discuss the possibility that the strange events might be connected to the Vord, a deadly creature Daroga warned about. Isana is asked to go to the capital and meet with Gaius, as her presence could help maintain stability in the realm amid rising tensions between the Slavers' Consortium and the Dianic League. Despite her reluctance, Isana agrees to travel but insists on ensuring her brother Tavi's safety first. Bernard promises to protect him, and Isana prepares for her journey. In Chapter 7, Fidelius runs over 100 miles, leaving the Calderon Valley, and arrives at a northern hostel where he conducts a meeting via watercrafting with Lady Invidia. She informs him that the rumors of Calaris having his own breed of cursor are true, and that the attempt on Isana's life was orchestrated to prevent her support for Gaius, which could upset the balance of power between Calaris and Invidia's factions. Fidelius learns that Gaius's granting of citizenship to Isana could destabilize the southern economy, particularly the slave trade, and weaken Calaris's influence. Invidia orders Fidelius to travel to the capital for Wintersend to stop Isana's formal support for Gaius, despite the danger it poses to him, including being a wanted man. Fidelius is frustrated, but agrees, knowing the stakes are high for both Invidia and himself. Afterward, he prepares to head back into the night, resigned to his dangerous mission. In Chapter 8, Tavi hunts a thief in Alera's city streets, using his skills from tracking wild animals to deduce that the thief is not after money but food. After a failed attempt to capture the thief, Tavi encounters his roommate Max, who has been shadowing him for a test given by their instructor, Killian. The two share a humorous exchange before Tavi heads to meet Gaius. Upon reaching the First Lord's chamber, Tavi finds Gaius gravely ill and disheveled, visibly weakened by both sickness and the pressure of leadership. Gaius is overwhelmed with despair, showing Tavi a vision of a coastal village consumed by a deadly storm, unable to save it despite his efforts. Gaius's rage erupts, causing a violent display of furycrafting before he collapses from exhaustion. Tavi, deeply moved, tries to assist, but is met with the First Lord's despair and silence as Gaius silently acknowledges his failure. In Chapter 9, Tavi realizes that the fate of the First Lord Gaius and the future of Alera are in his hands after Gaius collapses from exhaustion and illness. Tavi considers his options, deciding that alerting the guards would be disastrous. He chooses to seek help from Sir Miles, captain of the Crown Legion, and encounters Ambassador Varg, Academ, who demands to see Gaius immediately. Tavi manages to defuse the tense situation with a display of confidence, ultimately sending for Miles. Upon Miles' arrival, they assess Gaius' condition, and Miles reveals that Gaius' health is critical. They need help, but must keep everything secret. Tavi suggests two potential helpers, Fade, a slave skilled at staying unnoticed, and Max, a talented watercrafter. Miles agrees to use them, warning Tavi to keep everything confidential. Tavi swears to protect Gaius and keep the situation under wraps, knowing the stakes for the realm's future. In Chapter 10, Isana prepares to visit Gaius and seek help for the Vord threat. Her brother Bernard reassures her that there's still time before an attack, with reinforcements from Daroga expected in weeks. Amara arrives to offer support and shares her concern about the strained relationship between Isana and Gaius. Isana admits her deep hatred for Gaius, blaming him for the death of her sister and her family's suffering, while Amara defends Gaius' sacrifices, including the loss of his own son. The conversation becomes tense, but Isana makes it clear she won't forgive him. Despite their differences, she wishes Amara happiness with Bernard. After Amara leaves, Isana retrieves a ring hidden in a chest, symbolizing painful memories of her past. With renewed determination, she prepares to face Gaius, knowing the importance of helping her family and confronting the man she despises. In Chapter 11, Amara prepares for Steadholder Asana's journey to the capital, where she will approach Gaius. She meets Sir Horatio and the Knights Heiress, who are sent by the crown to assist. After some banter with Horatio, Amara is greeted by Sarai, a courtesan with a tragic backstory. Sarai reveals that many cursors are being hunted and killed, including 2 who were recently murdered. Amara learns that the attacks may be due to treachery from within their own ranks, possibly linked to Fidelius. Despite the danger, Amara is resolute about staying to assist with the Vord threat and protect Isana. Sarai, though hesitant about getting involved in such dangerous work, offers support, but remains concerned about her lack of combat skills. Amara vows to continue her mission to safeguard the realm, despite the personal sacrifices required, and prepares for the journey with urgency. In Chapter 12, Tavi retrieves Max, who is hungover, and drags him to the baths at the Academy for an emergency sobering session. After some banter, Tavi reveals the dangerous mission ahead, involving the First Lord's health and the need for a body double. Max reluctantly agrees to help, though he warns of the dangers. Tavi then seeks out Fade, discovering that the slave is not as brain-addled as he pretends. Fade helps Tavi and Miles move the unconscious First Lord Gaius, who collapsed from overexertion. As they work, Miles notices Fade's scars, and Tavi carefully hides the truth about him. Fade reveals that he and Miles are brothers and asks Tavi to keep his true identity secret to avoid a confrontation with Miles. Tavi agrees, and the chapter ends with the heavy responsibility of maintaining the charade to protect Gaius and the realm. In Chapter 13, Isana travels to Alera Imperia in a flying litter with Sarai, where they discuss their pasts and the danger they face. Isana realizes that Sarai, though seemingly loyal to Gaius, has her own painful history. The 2 women bond, but Isana's anxiety grows as they approach the capital, knowing the political dangers ahead. They land in the city, where Isana is introduced to the grandeur and chaos of the capital. Just as they disembark, an assassin's dagger narrowly misses Isana, sparking panic. Sarai pushes Isana out of harm's way, and the pair quickly realize the attack was meant for Isana. Despite the chaos, Sarai remains calm and assures Isana they must hurry and stay alert. Isana and Sarai make their way through the platform, with Isana more aware than ever of the perilous situation ahead. In Chapter 14, Tavi completes a grueling exam at the Academy, feeling exhausted and unsure of his performance. He and his friends, Aaron and Gael, discuss the test results before Tavi heads to deliver a letter to Ambassador Varg. At the Kanem embassy, Tavi encounters a tense situation when one of the Kanem guards seizes his wrist. However, Tavi manages to handle the situation diplomatically, delivering the letter directly to Varg. After a brief interaction, Tavi senses something amiss when Varg mentions rats in the walls. Tavi discovers a hidden passage in the Black Hall leading into the deeps, and as he investigates, he overhears a conversation between the Kanem Sarl and a mysterious human. Sarl senses Tavi's presence, causing him to flee back to the Citadel. He narrowly escapes, realizing that something dangerous is brewing within the Kanem embassy. In Chapter 15, Amara and Bernard lead a column of legionaries through the woods, noting the absence of deer, a sign of possible danger. Bernard suspects that an enemy might be preparing an ambush, and Amara remains cautious but confident in their scouts. As they near the Steadholt Ericult, Amara reflects on her complex feelings for Bernard, influenced by her duty to Gaius and her role as a cursor. She speaks with Daroga, who shares insights into his people's beliefs and their connection to the One, offering Amara new perspectives on life and love. When Bernard receives word from a scout that Ericult is eerily deserted, Amara and Bernard are alarmed. The scout reports no signs of a battle, just an abandoned Steadholt. Daroga ominously predicts this is how the enemy's attack begins, heightening the tension as they prepare for what's ahead. In Chapter 16, Isana and Sarai struggle with finding Isana's nephew Antonin at the Academy. While they wait for an audience with Gaius, Sarai explains how bureaucracy is delaying their request. The 2 discuss the recent assassination attempt on Isana, with Sarai revealing how she recognized the assassin's inexperience. Isana is worried about her nephew's safety and Gaius's involvement, but Sarai reassures her that Gaius will protect her family once they contact him. When word comes that they cannot reach the First Lord directly, Sarai proposes attending a garden party hosted by Lady Kalar, where high-ranking officials, including Gaius's enemies, will be present. The plan is risky, but it offers a slim chance to speak to Gaius. Isana agrees to the dangerous course of action, determined to act quickly and prevent further harm to her family. In Chapter 17, Fidelius returns from gathering information and informs Lady Aquitaine about Isana's whereabouts and the involvement of Sarai, whom he suspects to be a cursor. Fidelius is certain that the assassin who attempted to kill Isana was affiliated with Calare. He also reveals that there have been disappearances in the deeps, likely related to Calare's operatives, though he is unsure why the attempts on Isana's life have been sloppy. He suspects a disruption within the cursors and hints at a war being declared against them. Invidia Aquitaine is concerned about the potential ramifications for Gaius's rule. The conversation reveals Fidelius's disillusionment with Gaius and his intent to move against Isana that night. Invidia orders him to eliminate the stedholder, emphasizing the political threat she poses to their plans. Fidelius agrees and prepares to act, leaving Invidia to attend a gathering at Calaris's manor. In Chapter 18, Tavi wakes to a prank by Max, who had impersonated Gaius to tease him. Max explains that he is continuing his role as the First Lord for a public event while Tavi assists him. Max, unprepared for the formalities, asks Tavi to help him understand a complicated theory, the anthropomorphic theorem, which involves furycrafting. As they navigate through hidden passageways, they discuss the theories behind the nature of furies. Tavi tries to teach Max, who struggles with the material but remains determined. After attending a reception as Gaius, Max unexpectedly kisses the First Lady to distract her and prevent her from questioning him, much to Tavi's shock. Max explains the political nature of noble marriages, revealing Gaius's neglect of his wife. Later, Tavi receives a letter from his aunt Isana that deeply alarms him. He urgently decides to go see her, sensing something is wrong. In Chapter 19, Bernard and his column arrive at the deserted Stedholt of Aracolt, which had been transformed into a prosperous settlement. Despite the changes, the area is eerily quiet and there is no sign of life. Bernard orders a search of the Stedholt and the team discovers a sealed chamber within its foundation. Amara realizes that the people inside, particularly the children, had been sealed in to protect them from an unknown threat. Bernard and his team, with the help of Frederic, manage to break open the chamber. Inside, they find children and a young woman named Hedi, who reveals that Aric's close friend, Bardos, sealed them in after the vord began attacking. Daroga explains that the vord are parasitic creatures that take over their hosts, leaving them empty shells. The chapter ends as Daroga realizes Aric may have been taken, and a cry of alarm signals the vord's presence outside the Stedholt. In Chapter 20, Amara, aided by her Fury Cirrus, flies above Aracolt and witnesses a brutal battle as Vord warriors attack the Stedholt. She sees legionaries fighting valiantly but being overwhelmed by the Vord's strength and viciousness. Amara fights off a Vord to protect the children and healers, discovering a weakness in the creature's armor. As the battle intensifies, Bernard and his forces work to defend the Stedholt, with Knights Ignis using firecrafting to repel some of the Vord. Despite their efforts, the casualties are heavy, with many legionaries and knights dead. As the Vord retreat, Amara surveys the battlefield, horrified by the carnage. Bernard suggests retreating, but Amara insists on staying to care for the wounded. Bernard recognizes that the Vord's strategy was to cripple them, and though they could flee, Amara refuses to abandon their wounded. She prepares for their next move as Bernard focuses on keeping them safe. In Chapter 21, Isana is dressed by Sarai in a lavish gown and jewelry, making her feel out of place, but she reluctantly admits the attire is stunning. Sarai insists they attend a party hosted by Lord Calare, where Isana's presence serves political purposes. At the event, Isana is overwhelmed by the extravagance and splendor of the garden, with various noble factions present. Isana is introduced to Lady Placida, who hints at the potential political benefits of Isana's position. However, Isana's thoughts are consumed with anger towards Lord Aquitaine, whose actions have caused her personal loss. When Lady Aquitaine unexpectedly appears, Isana struggles to keep her emotions in check, and Sarai warns her against provoking the lady, explaining that it could lead to a deadly duel. Tension rises as Sarai hints at danger and urges Isana to leave, sensing the risk in staying any longer at the party. In Chapter 22, Sarai quickly introduces Isana to several nobles, charming each with wit and precision. As they prepare to leave the party, Lord Calare confronts them, exchanging cold words with Sarai and making subtle threats. Calare offers to buy Sarai, implying that she will eventually change masters. Tension escalates when he strikes Sarai after she sarcastically comments on his son's challenge for citizenship. Isana steps in, asserting her status as a citizen and confronting Calare, which forces him to relent. They leave the party, and Sarai leads Isana to the back of the house to avoid detection. However, as they are about to leave, assassins ambush them. Sarai is severely injured by an arrow while fighting back. Nidus, who had tried to protect them, is also fatally wounded. Isana is struck by an arrow but attempts to save Sarai, only to realize that Fidelius, a former cursor and traitor, is responsible for the attack. In Chapter 23, Tavi receives a strange letter from his aunt, which contains unusual details, leading him to suspect something is wrong. He and Max head to her location on Garden Lane, but find she's not at Sir Nidus' manor. Instead, a second letter reveals she is at Lord Calaire's garden party, a dangerous place given Calaire and Aquitaine's disdain for Gaius. Tavi decides to go to the party and speak with his aunt to pass on a message to Gaius. Max expresses concern, pointing out the risks, particularly with Brentsis, Calari's son, who may be at the party. Tavi is undeterred, confident that if it's serious, they can take it to Killian and let him decide the next steps. Max warns Tavi about Brentsis' potential danger, as he has always been a bully and could pose a threat. Tavi insists on getting in and out quickly to avoid trouble. In Chapter 24, Tavi and Max arrive at Lord Calara's manor, where Tavi learns his aunt Isana has left early, possibly due to a confrontation with Calara. They are led to Lady Placida, who confirms Isana was last seen speaking with several dignitaries, including Lord Calara. Tavi suspects Isana is in danger and worries about the cutters they saw earlier. After an altercation with Brentsis and his associates, Tavi and Max are attacked in a fog-filled alley. Max is severely wounded by Brentsis, and Tavi, in a desperate struggle, manages to fend off Brentsis temporarily. Lady Placida arrives with the Civic Legion and intervenes, preventing further harm. She heals Max's injuries, but Tavi learns the painful truth. Sir Nidus, the coachman, and the courtesan are all dead, and Isana is missing, likely kidnapped. Tavi is left with no answers, but must report to Killian about the devastating events. In Chapter 25, Amara wakes up in a steadholt full of wounded men after a battle. She and Bernard discuss the casualties, including 4 deaths and the lack of healing for the severely injured due to limited resources. The conversation turns to the Vord, and Amara plans a course of action based on Daroga's knowledge. He explains that the Vord are spreading, and they've been active ever since Tavi and Kitai disturbed something in the Wax Forest, awakening a Vord Queen. Daroga reveals that the Vord can control the Taken, people whose bodies are used by the Vord, showing no pain or fear. Amara realizes the danger. If the Taken have access to furycraft, they could use it against them. The chapter ends with Amara growing anxious as she remembers something small brushing against her foot upon waking, a possible sign that the Vord might have already infiltrated the Steadholt. In Chapter 26, Amara and Bernard quickly realize that the Vord are infiltrating their forces by using Takers, creatures that crawl into the bodies of sleeping individuals, taking control of them. Amara felt something brush her foot, which leads her to suspect the Takers are already inside the Steadholt. When Captain Janus, previously a loyal officer, attacks, it's clear he's been taken. Amara kills him, but the threat intensifies as more Taken soldiers rise and begin killing. Bernard, Amara, and their men are left scrambling, with the urgency to destroy the Vord nest before they suffer more casualties. They face challenges with the lack of firecrafters and uncertainty over the Takers' abilities. Frederick discovers that 4 men are missing, likely taken, which strengthens their resolve to act. Amara is appointed Knight Commander, and plans are made for a night attack, with Fury Lamps and Knights preparing for the fight ahead. In Chapter 27, Fidelius meets with Invidia Aquitaine to discuss the aftermath of an attack on Isana of Calderon. Invidia learns that Calari's men followed Isana to Sir Nidus' manor, where the steadholder was shot, and Sir Nidus, Sarai, and the coachman were killed. Isana survived, but her wound is serious. Invidia suggests bringing Isana to her manor for protection, though Fidelius warns that Isana may not trust her. Invidia believes Isana could be persuaded to support them, as she is desperate to protect her family. The conversation reveals the political maneuvering between Calare, Gaius, and Invidia, with Isana being a key piece in the game. Fidelius is tasked with ensuring Isana's cooperation, though he doubts the success of the plan. Invidia stresses the urgency of the situation and the importance of Isana appearing before the Senate under Gaius's control to outmaneuver their enemies. Fidelius reluctantly agrees to proceed. In Chapter 28, tensions rise as Tavi, Killian, and Sir Miles discuss the dire situation facing the realm. Tavi admits his role in leaving the Citadel, which may have endangered Alera. Miles angrily criticizes Tavi's actions, while Killian focuses on the bigger picture, emphasizing the need to assess the damage and minimize fallout. The First Lord's absence could lead to political instability, and Killian suggests focusing on damage control. Tavi insists on helping his aunt Isana, as she has become a symbol of Gaius's power, and argues that rescuing her is vital. Despite their disagreement, Killian reluctantly agrees to have Tavi enlist help from Aleran, Gael, and Lady Placida to find Isana. Meanwhile, a cryptic letter from Ambassador Varg raises suspicions about a secret passage in the deeps which Tavi explored. Killian reveals a past rivalry between Miles and Araris Valerian, hinting at old grudges. Tavi leaves to follow through on his mission. In Chapter 29, Tavi wakes up Aleran and Gael to ask for their help in locating his aunt Isana, who has been kidnapped. Tavi reveals the serious situation, explaining that neither the Crown nor the Cursors can provide adequate assistance due to limited resources. He emphasizes the importance of his aunt's safety for both personal and political reasons. Despite initial reluctance, Aleran and Gael agree to help. The group formulates a plan. Gael will speak to Kalara's staff and caterers, Aleran will investigate the streets, and Tavi will check the riverfront. Tavi feels immense responsibility for his aunt's plight and the consequences of his actions, especially regarding Max's imprisonment in the Grey Tower. Tavi realizes that only the Black Cat, a skilled thief, could bypass the tower's security and free Max. Tavi sets off to find the Black Cat, determined to rescue his aunt and restore Gaius's power. In Chapter 30, Tavi searches for the Black Cat, a skilled thief, to help him break his friend Max out of the Grey Tower. Tavi tracks the Black Cat through the streets of Craft Lane and catches her in a daring rooftop encounter. To his surprise, the Black Cat is Kitai, a Marat woman he recognizes from the past. Despite the tension between Alerans and the Marat, Kitai agrees to help Tavi, motivated by her own sense of survival. Tavi explains that Max is imprisoned for defending him, and Kitai agrees to aid him in breaking Max out of the tower, aware of the risk involved. They plan their next steps, knowing the operation is dangerous and must succeed without detection. Tavi expresses gratitude, but Kitai warns him not to thank her yet, as the task ahead will be perilous. In Chapter 31, Tavi and Kitai infiltrate the Grey Tower to break Max out of prison. Tavi, using his skills and the help of Kitai's Marat-crafted rope, manages to get across a 50-foot gap to the tower. Kitai follows effortlessly. They reach Max, who is surprisingly calm and dismissive about the bars in his cell, explaining that the political nature of his imprisonment is the real threat, not the bars. Despite his doubts, Max agrees to leave. They plan to exit without using furycraft, as the security systems are designed to detect it. Tavi assures Max they'll escape without anyone knowing, and although Max is hesitant and skeptical, he trusts Tavi. They carefully leave the cell, with Tavi supporting Max as they make their way out of the tower. Tavi and Kitai work together to ensure they leave unnoticed, knowing the consequences if they're caught. In Chapter 32, Tavi reports back to Killian after successfully rescuing Max from the Grey Tower. Killian acknowledges Tavi's daring, but warns him about the consequences of disobeying orders. Max, though injured, agrees to help once rested. Tavi delivers letters, including one to Ambassador Varg, and notices something strange at the Academ embassy. The guards are missing. Tavi worries about his aunt Isana's safety and the possibility that he could have prevented her abduction. He confides in Kitai, sharing his worries about the political situation and his concerns regarding Varg's behavior. Kitai listens patiently and offers support, revealing her own past and the emotional weight of her people's traditions. She expresses her growing feelings for Tavi and admits her loneliness, having no clan of her own. Tavi reassures her, and they share a quiet, intimate moment, cementing their bond as they face the uncertain future ahead. In Chapter 33, Amara, Bernard, and Daroga scout an outlaw cave where they find evidence of the Croach, a dangerous substance from the wax forest, spreading with the help of wax spiders. They prepare for a direct assault on the Vord nest, planning to strike at night. After Amara's reconnaissance flight reveals nothing significant, they advance toward the Croach, fighting off waves of wax spiders as they go. The Aleran forces hold their ground, with Bernard's archers providing support. As they near the cave, the Vord Queen emerges with a group of Taken leading a counterattack. The Alerans are forced to retreat, with Bernard organizing a temporary fallback to the cave for better defense. Amara, weary and emotionally drained, contemplates the dire situation while still feeling duty-bound to fight. The chapter ends with a sense of looming dread as the Vord Queen and her forces close in. In Chapter 34, Tavi and his friends face ongoing tension after a frustrating history examination. While waiting for their turn, Tavi discusses the mysterious attack and disappearance of the street lamps with Aleran and Gael. They uncover signs that someone, possibly connected to the Vord, had been in the area. As Tavi prepares to leave the academy, he encounters an ominous presence near his room. A Canim from the Black Hall, Varg, is lurking in the shadows. Varg bursts into Tavi's room, where Kitai, armed with knives, defends herself against the Khanim's attack. Tavi intervenes, throwing a pitcher to distract Varg, but the Khanim overpowers him, forcing him to follow. Varg kidnaps Kitai, and despite knowing the danger, Tavi resolves to chase after them, determined to keep his promise to Kitai that she is not alone, even if it costs him his life. In Chapter 35, Amara, Bernard, and Daroga are holed up in a cave, waiting for an attack from the Vord. They speculate that the Vord are waiting for sunrise, possibly because they believe the Alerans have firecrafters. Amara realizes the Vord are afraid, shaken by their unexpected victory over the Vord nest. The Vord Queen soon appears, offering a truce, but Amara rejects it, asserting that they will not surrender. The Queen hints that the First Lord is incapacitated and no help is coming, sowing doubt in Amara's mind. As the situation becomes increasingly dire, Bernard proposes they marry, despite the uncertain future. Amara initially hesitates, but eventually agrees, embracing the moment. Daroga officiates the marriage, and they share a passionate, intimate moment together, finding comfort in each other's presence amidst the looming danger. Despite the terror of impending death, they find solace in their love. In Chapter 36, Isana wakes up injured in a strange room, bandaged by the assassin Fidelius, who reveals that he did not kill her, but did eliminate the archer who attempted to. Fidelius explains his actions, claiming that Gaius's policies are leading Alera to civil war, and that he supports a rival High Lord to prevent the realm's collapse. Isana is initially furious, but listens as Fidelius offers her the chance to meet with his employer. Though suspicious, she is given the option to leave at any time. Isana reluctantly accepts the offer, and after tending to her wound, prepares for the meeting. As she contemplates the deaths of Natus and Sarai and the isolation she feels, she resolves to do whatever it takes to secure help for her family. She opens the door to Fidelius, determined to move forward, and demands to be taken to the meeting. In Chapter 37, Tavi chases Ambassador Varg through the tunnels of the deeps, eventually cornering him with Kitai. Varg, holding Kitai captive, releases her after Tavi confronts him, realizing Varg wants to show him something. They crawl through narrow tunnels until they reach a cavern covered in croach, where Khanim soldiers and wax spiders move silently. Tavi observes that Varg's battle pack has been bewitched by the Ilrarim, a dangerous caste of Khanim blood prophets. Varg explains that Sarl, a rogue Ilrarim, is working with the cloaked figure to destroy Gaius and weaken Alera, planning to cripple Aleran leadership by using treacherous sorcery. Despite being an enemy of the Alerans, Varg opposes Sarl's methods and urges Tavi to stop them. Varg, planning to lead Sarl away, leaves Tavi with the task of stopping the impending danger, as time is running out. In Chapter 38, Fidelius escorts Steadholder Isana through the city to meet with his employer's second-in-command. As they walk, Fidelius notices that they are being followed by two bounty hunters. Isana, using her watercrafting, identifies them as a threat before Fidelius eliminates them with precise archery. Despite his skill, Isana reacts with horror, revealing her discomfort with the violence. Fidelius reflects on his own emotional numbness, comparing his past actions to his present detachment. Isana, sensing his inner conflict, comments on his lack of empathy, which causes him to question whether he has lost something vital. After the encounter, Fidelius urges Isana to keep moving, and she regains her composure, though visibly shaken. The chapter highlights Fidelius' internal struggle with his emotions and his violent actions, as well as Isana's growing awareness of the moral complexities surrounding their situation. In Chapter 39, Tavi and Kitai make their way through the deeps, navigating the croach-filled cavern and evading wax spiders. Kitai realizes that these creatures, along with the Kanim, are part of the Vord, an ancient and destructive force that devours worlds. The Vord, led by a queen, use deception to weaken enemies and multiply their numbers. Kitai explains how the Vord have previously ravaged her people by creating divisions and causing chaos, a tactic they are now using to destroy Alera. Tavi pieces together the Vord's plan to kill Gaius by exploiting his vulnerabilities and using the Kanim to further weaken the realm. They decide to warn Sir Miles and seek support from Maestro Killian, despite the risk that Sir Miles may not trust Tavi due to their past conflict. Their mission takes a dangerous turn when Tavi is ambushed by a hooded attacker, knocking him unconscious just before the chapter ends. In Chapter 40, Amara and Bernard wake up at dawn and prepare for the upcoming battle, donning their arms and armor in silence. As they finish, Daroga enters, his expression grim, and informs them that the enemy is approaching. The calm before the storm quickly dissipates as they brace for the impending conflict. In Chapter 41, Isana meets Lady Invidia Aquitaine at a wine club, where they discuss a potential political alliance. Aquitaine asks for Isana's public support, attendance at the Dianic League, and backing in upcoming elections. In exchange, Isana demands help to protect her family, especially Tavi and Bernard. After recounting the danger posed by the Vord, Isana presses Aquitaine for her help. Aquitaine agrees, promising to send troops to Calderon and secure Tavi and Bernard's safety. She reassures Isana of her intentions, revealing her commitment to protecting her family. Despite Isana's hatred for her ambitions, she agrees to the alliance, understanding the price of her loyalty. Afterward, Isana is escorted under guard to Aquitaine's manor, exhausted but relieved, knowing that help is on its way. She falls asleep in the coach, knowing her decision will come with consequences, but trusting it will protect her loved ones. In Chapter 42, Tavi wakes up bound in a chair in a warehouse, with his hands and legs tied. He assesses his surroundings, realizing he's on a ship near the river. His captors, Turk and Rook, discuss their plans and the failure of the mission to kill Isana. They plan to use Tavi and Kitai as bait. When Turk leaves, Tavi hears a faint scraping noise and soon sees his friend Aaron emerging from a hole in the floor. Aaron has followed Tavi's captors and found them. As they work to escape, Turk returns with Cardus, who is furious but restrained by orders not to harm them. In the chaos, Turk is injured and Kitai kills him. Tavi and Aaron work together to free themselves. They make their escape, using a rope to descend to the water, knowing they must hurry. Tavi fears the Kanim are coming for the First Lord. In Chapter 43, Amara, Bernard, and their forces prepare for the inevitable battle with the Taken. Bernard organizes their defense, deciding to form a shield wall in the cave to reduce the advantage of the enemy's numbers. Giraldi suggests rotating squads for better endurance. Amara warns against using furycrafting, suspecting that the Taken may not be able to initiate it themselves. As they continue their preparations, Amara senses a fury storm building and warns the group. The Vord's forces, including the Queen and the Taken, march toward the cave, with the eerie sight of Aleran people, including women and children, moving in perfect unison. Bernard organizes the men into ranks and prepares for the fight of their lives. As the enemy approaches, Bernard orders steady defense, while Daroga and Walker prepare for battle. Just as the Taken enter the cave, a massive swarm of crows appears, signaling an impending slaughter. The battle begins. In Chapter 44, Tavi, Kitai, and Aaron steal horses to get to the citadel quickly. Tavi gives Aaron instructions to relay an urgent message to the First Lord's guards about a threat. After reaching the citadel gates, they are stopped by suspicious guards, but Tavi uses his passwords to gain entry, despite the tension with Kitai's identity as a Marat. Inside, Tavi warns a centurion about the Kanim approaching to kill the First Lord. The alarm bells are slow to ring, and Tavi rushes to warn the First Lord, leading Kitai through the halls. Just as they approach, the Kanim breach the palace, slaughtering guards. Tavi and Kitai barely escape the attack as more Kanim press in. Tavi runs to warn the First Lord, knowing they're outnumbered and running out of time. The chapter ends with Tavi and Kitai rushing to the First Lord's chambers, desperate to prevent a catastrophe. In Chapter 45, Tavi and Kitai rush through the citadel, warning the guards of the Kanim's assault on the First Lord. They encounter resistance from a suspicious centurion, but manage to gain entry, where Tavi informs Max and Maestro Killian of the threat. The group prepares to defend the First Lord, but the Kanim soon breach the defenses, killing Centurion Bartos. Max, disguised as Gaius, leads the group to the next position, but the Canim push them back. Tavi and Kitai help defend, with Tavi using his spear to help kill one of the Canim. They fortify a guard room, but the Canim break through the door and the situation becomes dire. Tavi is thrown across the room by the Vord Queen, who emerges to fight them. Surrounded by Canim, Tavi faces certain death as they prepare to strike. In Chapter 46, the battle intensifies as the Taken holders assault the cave. Amara, Bernard, and their forces fight fiercely to hold their position, but the Taken's numbers and relentless aggression cause heavy casualties. The Knights Terra push the enemy back temporarily, but their strength begins to wane as the fight drags on. Daroga and his Gargant, Walker, play a pivotal role in defending the cave, crushing enemies with devastating power. However, the Taken start making spears to deal with Walker, signaling a new threat. With few resources and men exhausted, Bernard decides to lead a final charge against the Vord Queen, knowing they must kill her to prevent further destruction. He prepares to fight outside the cave with any volunteers willing to join him. Amara, determined not to leave Bernard's side, agrees to go with him despite the danger. The chapter ends with their decision to confront the Queen. In Chapter 47, Tavi finds himself amidst a brutal battle with the Canim, who are determined to kill Gaius. As the Canim fight fiercely, Tavi assists Sir Miles, who is severely wounded but continues to defend the group with incredible skill. Meanwhile, the Vord Queen, using her speed and ferocity, attacks and disrupts the fight. Tavi throws a spear at the Queen, briefly off balance, allowing Miles to land critical strikes, but the Queen quickly recovers and retreats. As the Canim continue pressing forward, Tavi, Miles, and the others retreat to the stairs, hoping to hold the line. Maestro Killian uses his furycrafting to buy them time, and they strategize to use the stairs as their best defense. Tavi is tasked with moving Gaius back to the meditation chamber, while Miles prepares for another round of combat, despite his injuries. The group braces for the final stand as the enemy grows closer. In Chapter 48, Fidelius informs Lady Aquitaine and Lord Aquitaine about a critical situation involving Tavi Patronus Gaius. Tavi, recently captured by agents calling themselves Blood Crows, managed to escape and sent a message detailing the situation. Lady Aquitaine and Lord Aquitaine are concerned, suspecting Calera's involvement in an attempt to weaken Gaius and incite civil war. The Canim, who were absent from the Black Hall and involved in a strange battle, seem to be acting under manipulation or loss of loyalty. The Aquitaines decide to take action against Calera, with Lord Aquitaine heading to Pier 7, while Lady Aquitaine, with Fidelius, prepares to enter the deeps through the tunnels to assist. They plan to save Gaius and prevent Calera from taking advantage of the chaos. The chapter ends with the Aquitaines preparing to act swiftly to protect Gaius and the realm. In Chapter 49, Tavi and his companions, including Max, Kitai, and Fade, are trapped in a dangerous situation as the Canim continue their assault. Tavi struggles to carry the unconscious Max down the stairs while reflecting on the dire circumstances. He realizes that if the First Lord dies, it will lead to a civil war, and the realm will be vulnerable to external threats. Tavi tries to convince Fade to fight, despite his reluctance, by appealing to his sense of duty and the importance of saving Gaius. After a tense exchange, Fade, burdened by past trauma, finally agrees to help, driven by Tavi's determination and promise of support. The chapter ends with Tavi and Fade preparing to face the Canim, fully aware of the stakes and the grim reality of their situation. In Chapter 50, Amara and Bernard prepare for a final charge against the Taken as they form up with crude spears and shields. The battle intensifies as the storm begins to break, and they are joined by Daroga and his Gargant Walker. The legionaries charge with Bernard leading, and Walker wreaks havoc on the enemy lines. Amara's task is to locate and confront the Vord Queen, and she eventually engages her in a fierce battle. After an intense struggle, Amara wounds the Queen with a swift strike, but the Queen leaps toward her again, only to be fatally shot by Bernard's arrows. As the remaining Taken are defeated, a group of mercenaries led by Aldrich X Gladius arrives to help. They seek shelter in the cave from the Fury Storm. Amid the chaos, Bernard and Amara acknowledge their marriage, a moment of calm amidst the turmoil. In Chapter 51, Tavi rushes back up the stairs to help Captain Miles, who is struggling to hold off the Canim with his injuries. Fade arrives, moving swiftly and decisively, helping to defeat several Canim. Tavi tends to Maestro Killian's wounds, and Kitai helps him back down the stairs to safety. As Tavi checks on Miles, the captain is in disbelief, recognizing the fighting style of his long-lost brother Araris, who had been thought dead. Tavi explains that Araris is alive and has been brought to the palace by Gaius. While the two of them talk, a group of deadly wax spiders approaches the vulnerable wounded below, intending to kill Gaius and others. Miles, too injured to assist, urges Tavi to go ahead. Tavi, filled with dread, heads down to warn Kitai and protect the wounded from the wax spiders, knowing the dire consequences of failure. In Chapter 52, Fidelius and Lady Aquitaine navigate the palace after a violent attack. They emerge from a hidden passage into a hallway where they find the royal guard struggling against the Academ. Lady Aquitaine takes command and uses her powerful firecrafting to clear the room of vord spiders, saving many of the guards. Despite her immense strength and control, a vord warrior attacks her, but she easily overpowers it. Fidelius helps by shooting arrows at the spiders, preventing some from reaching Lady Aquitaine. After the battle, Lady Aquitaine praises Fidelius for his quick thinking, though she reminds him that his actions expose him to great risk from the guards. Fidelius reflects on his loyalty to Alera, not Gaius, and expresses his concern that the vord attack was intended to delay them. With reinforcements arriving, they realize they must hurry before it's too late. In Chapter 53, Tavi rushes to the antechamber, warning Kitai about more wax spiders. Kitai defends against the creatures, using bottles to crush them, while Tavi protects Max and Maestro Killian. They fight off the spiders, but Kitai is poisoned by several bites. Tavi, using the First Lord's sword, kills the remaining spiders and forces the door shut to protect them. Kitai and Killian are both severely poisoned, and Tavi is unable to help them. Killian reveals he was working with Kalari's agents, but before he can explain further, he dies from the poison. Tavi is left feeling helpless as Kitai's condition worsens. Just as he faces the grim possibility of losing her, the door explodes open, revealing a wounded Cain. Tavi realizes the Academ have breached their defenses, and he is now completely alone to face the threat. In Chapter 54, Tavi faces off against a wounded Cain, realizing that he must stop it to protect Gaius, Kitai, and Max. Fueled by rage and desperation, Tavi uses his speed and intelligence to outmaneuver the Cain, landing several precise strikes despite his own injuries. After a brutal fight, he finally defeats the Cain, pinning it down until it dies from its wounds. Exhausted and battered, Tavi struggles to stay standing as he hears footsteps approaching. Fade and several royal guard members arrive, witnessing Tavi's victory. Fade helps Tavi to the floor, and Tavi, now weakened, speaks of the poisoned Kitai and the death of Maestro Killian. Fade reassures him that watercrafters and healers are on the way. Tavi, drained from the battle, falls asleep, knowing the fight is over, but the battle for survival continues. In Chapter 55, Tavi wakes up in the palace infirmary after nearly a full day of unconsciousness, recovering from his injuries. Sir Miles informs him that Gaius, Kitai, and Max are all safe. Tavi is told that Kitai survived a spider attack, likely due to her resistance, and Gaius is awake and irritable, wanting to speak with him. Tavi discusses his feelings about the death of Maestro Killian and learns that Fade, who assisted Miles, has been recognized for his bravery. Tavi is also informed about his aunt's political alliance with Lady Aquitaine, which surprises him. After meeting with Gaius, Tavi is given a message for the new ambassador Kitai. She is introduced as the new ambassador, and her charming, playful interaction with Tavi leads to an unexpected kiss. Kitai makes it clear that she now expects Tavi to assist her, and they plan to ride horses together soon. In Chapter 56, Amara and Bernard oversee the burial of fallen soldiers from the recent battle, including both legionaries and taken. The mercenaries and knights have left, and the valley is now secured. Amara reflects on a small miracle, healer Harger's survival despite the Vord's attack, and the relief brought by the arrival of reinforcements. Bernard gives a heartfelt speech honoring the fallen. The bodies are laid to rest in a cave, which is later sealed by Earthcrafters. Afterward, Amara and Bernard discuss their relationship and the potential for children. Amara struggles with the implications of their vows to the crown and the possibility of bearing children after her blight. Bernard reassures her, emphasizing the possibility that she may still have the ability to have children, and expresses his desire for them to be together. They agree to keep their marriage a secret for now, understanding the risks and challenges they might face in the future. In Chapter 57, Fidelius prepares to leave the Aquitaine Manor before dawn, packing his belongings and reflecting on his quarters, which resemble those he once had in the Citadel. Lady Aquitaine enters and discusses his next assignment to infiltrate Calare and assess its connections with southern high lords. She warns him about his insubordination, but Fidelius asserts his control over the situation. He then reveals a dangerous clue. His sea cloak, which he left behind in the citadel, has mysteriously appeared in his room. This indicates that Gaius knows of his whereabouts and has given his approval for the mission. Fidelius warns Lady Aquitaine that Gaius is still a formidable opponent, and if she's not careful, she could become the prey instead of the hunter. Lady Aquitaine leaves in silence, now aware of the danger. Fidelius, feeling a mix of anger and satisfaction, falls asleep for the first time in years. In chapter 58, Isana reflects on her conflicted feelings as she travels to the palace for dinner with Gaius, her former loyalty to the crown now in question. She is grateful to see Tavi, who has grown both physically and in confidence. During the meal, Tavi recounts his recent experiences, revealing his pivotal role in the events that transpired. Isana is struck by the power he now holds, though she senses that Tavi is withholding some details. After the dinner, Isana speaks privately with Tavi, expressing concern about his friend Gael, whom Tavi reveals is actually an assassin named Rook, planted by Calare. Gaius and Isana discuss the moral implications of Killian's choice to use Rook for their advantage, and though Isana finds the situation monstrous, she understands the necessity. Tavi promises to be cautious, and after an emotional farewell, Isana leaves the palace, deeply worried for him. Epilogue. Miles reports to Gaius about the search for the Vord, noting no sign of them beyond a cavern they had used as a nest. Gaius mentions an anomaly where the Vord ignored Tavi's presence in multiple instances, but dismisses the idea of Tavi being in league with them. Gaius reflects on the Vord's difficulty to detect with crafting and the importance of remaining vigilant. The conversation shifts to Tavi and his growing friendship with Max, which Gaius orchestrated. Gaius reveals that Tavi is a cursor, a non-crafting former apprentice shepherd, and expresses his hope that Tavi will change, though he's uncertain about his future. Gaius admits to being physically limited and reveals his plan to buy time to prevent a war of succession. Gaius's health and future are uncertain, and Miles silently follows him, troubled by the future.